Yes,
Hello.
Irene.
Hi.
Yes, hello,
He
Irene.
didn't give me just the time to say hello that we are already in
Yes, we already
recording.
in.
We're already
Yes,
rocking and rolling.
no time, Irene. You just jump, in the water and start explaining everything without,
Okay.
Yeah.
yeah, without any preparations. I know you are capable. This is no doubt. So, guys, today we are kind of making transition from killer to healer, and I would love to hear your maybe just even how you understand the whole topic. I mean, what is that title? What does it mean for you? Who would like to start?
I guess I will,
Okay.
Okay.
since John wouldn't.
But you had such a beautiful write up on this, Alice.
True.
Oh, thank you, John.
Yeah.
Well, for me, we had talked about a serial killer, but it wasn't the normal serial killer that we talk about. It was how we internally heal our dreams, other people's dreams, maybe our children's. And then I think we kind of came to the conclusion that this is not something we do out of vindictiveness. We have good intentions,
Mm.
but our intentions are from our viewpoint. So as we were discussing it, we decided, I think, that we shouldn't be calling it a, since it has good intention, we shouldn't be calling it a killer. What could we call it? So we came up with the answer of a healer. So for me, I am trying to take, when I start doing things, speaking negatively towards myself, internally, or towards someone else. What I'm trying to get in the habit of doing is, how can I use this or reframe this where it can heal me? You know, I was just before we came on, I was just talking to my granddaughter, and we were saying how she was like, why I was telling her how proud I was of her, how she had, just she's married now, she's going to have a baby, and how, she had turned everything around. And she said, yeah, I remember how scared you were. And I was like, yeah, I was. But now we both, as we were talking, we came kind of to an understanding that sometimes those crazy things that we go through, those killer things, are actually molding us so we can heal. And
Mhm.
so when we get to a different point, we can look at that and we have something to compare it to. So when I think about the mistakes probably that I made when I was raising my kids, it wasn't intentionally, but now I have some to compare that to. And as I talk to my grandkids, it's more of I can do more of a healing. So I think I would change those, reframe those killer attitudes into hopefully a healing attitude. So that's kind of my roundabout way of thinking about it.
Nice. Mhm. Okay, nice. Good, nice angle. Oh, I can hear myself somehow echoing. Uh, Obviously, there are lots of explanations, and those words mean different things. I mean, and as a result, yeah, the understanding has some kind of, everyone probably kind of have a slightly different angle what killer is and what healer is. But I remember our last talk, and I do remember that kind of those good intentions which eventually end up. And I'm just curious about the killer thing. I'm just curious, is it still will be killer when it's not kind of involving other people? I mean, I do remember that we could kill our own dreams and yeah, being harsh kind of and judgmental with ourselves. And even though it could be good intentions, it could be voices of, I don't know, our parents or who knows who. I mean, some kind of judge. And maybe there is also some good intentions behind it, but it actually still killer, even if it's not related to other people, not related to children or people around us. And what would make it healer? Well, yeah, again, sorry, I'm kind of talking out loud. And I remember, like from martial art practice, I remember one of the sayings is that what make your technique or what make your skill is kind of not good enough or not strong enough. It's actually very often not about to do something new. It's mainly about stop what you are doing. It's amazing. I mean, it's actually kind of, for me, it was quite a revelation. I think Bruce Lee was saying that, you know, you do have inside, you do have already quite a perfect technique, but you need to stop doing lots of stuff, which right now you are doing. And as soon as you stop, then the elegant, perfect, clear technique will appear. And also remind me a little of Michelangelo when he was asked about that statue which he kind of made, and he said, "Well, I didn't make it. I just removed unnecessary things." No, I'm just curious about stop doing some stuff, and like in my mind, it could be the way from killer to healer, because we just, I don't know, do stuff which is totally unnecessary. Yeah, I don't know if it makes sense,
Well,
guys.
absolutely, Alex. I have the billions of input and insight, because I also, for example, when I began to practice Qigong, I was so, focused on doing things perfectly. Instead, the master said, don't do this thing perfect, but do allow your body to do these things. It's kind that I have to stop to think how to do things and let the things do themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And it changed a lot because the exercises began much easier. And I was able also to listen much more clearly, or feel my body, what it needs, and how my particular body can do this particular exercise in order to appear elegant and not the similar how the master do. Because the master taught us, you don't have to do like I do, you have to do in a perfect way that is perfect for your body, and it's your body your teacher. So that was one of the teachings that allows me to much more to be, and being present, and feel and hear and be with my body instead of doing things. And this is a period when I'm seeing many of my, let's call it, belief system, just to be clear with others, or some of the biases that I had for something. And it's a good thing when you can see it, because you can let them go too. And it's always about, as you said about Michelangelo, is about removing, not doing. And I'm letting go many things, effortlessly, because if you put effort, you have the the paradoxical effect that you, instead of remove it, you enlarge it, and you become giants, and you cannot you cannot be able to just let them go, and let them because as soon as you're able to observe without judgment, your belief systems, or even your mistake, you start to heal all the processes, and everything changes. And instead of thinking about failure, you start to think about learning, and you start to think about, how can I do differently, just because this way doesn't work for me. It's a different lifestyle, quite different lifestyle. And yes, it's much lighter, much enlightening, and much easier.
Awesome. John, what do you think about it? Much easier. Can you turn your killer in a healer in a very easy and enlightened way?
So I think that my big takeaway from listening to everyone is that it seems that the thread here, which we haven't talked about, is being aware and being conscious of this, because I think that's where the shift takes place. If you're going to let go, or you're going to move in a new direction, you have to be aware um, of that moment, right? I often, with the clients, it's about catching that moment where you have good intentions, right? But you have to catch yourself. And I think that's where consciousness is really important. As I was thinking about this, a lot for me around kind of the killer part was not the person per se, but more of like the fears that we have, the conditioning that comes behind all of that. And what's really interesting for me, this idea of healing, what keeps coming up, and this has been very interesting in the things that I've been reading, this word forgiveness. And this idea of forgiving. So, for instance, if we think about parents or role models from the past, they had good intentions, right? But they may not have been, may not have been received that way. And I'm wondering if the healing part of this is to forgive that part of what happened, right? Forgive those people for their good intentions, which may not have landed that way. And also then the idea, because I'm seeing this so often with clients, is that they want to go back and almost punish themselves for those actions. And in some ways, it's not allowing themselves to move forward. And I keep thinking about, how do you just forgive yourself? Like, this is what happened. It's in order to move this way, do we come to a place of forgiveness? I throw that word in there because it's been coming up a lot for me this past week. And I don't know if that's part of the equation for some people to go from, that killer to healer. And in order to move and transcend between those two, how might forgiveness be part of that process? And by forgiving, you're actually creating awareness. You are consciously aware of all of these aspects. I don't know.
Yeah.
Thoughts?
Yeah, I like
Lo-
that word forgiveness. And that come to, I was going through some papers just yesterday, and I had written some things, and that word forgiveness was in there. So I pulled from the side of my desk, and one of the things I had written was, and this was part of my healing when I was working on healing me. And one of them was, I forgive myself for I forgive myself for inhaling love, for exhaling love into the world before I inhaled it into me. And
Wow.
that was really big. I mean, I must have written this about, matter of fact, I wrote it in February of 2019. And I was working on, okay, getting myself together. And another one was, I forgive myself for cheating others by not allowing the gift God entrusted to me to be shared with the world. And those two, when you mentioned forgiveness, it reminded me. And I was thinking, until I forgave myself, I couldn't heal. And when I forgave myself and I started healing, then I was more able to look and see others differently. And I could get rid of that killer instinct, which is a really harsh word, but I could get rid of that instinct that were maybe judgmental or whatever. Nobody like to think of themselves as judgmental, but it can slip in there without us knowing it. And a lot of time it's because we haven't healed ourselves. And if we haven't healed, maybe it's because we haven't forgiven ourselves. So yeah, that word forgiveness have been strong for me this week.
Interesting. Well, forgiveness, when I hear forgiveness, I have a very powerful association with another word. In my mind, it's almost coming together. The word, not word actually, kind of two words, letting go. I mean, somehow in my mind, forgiveness is actually kind of the act how you can make yourself free and finally able to move or change. I mean, unless if you are not free or not able to move, you are still connected, still holding on something, and you could hold with different. The emotion could be good one or bad one. It doesn't matter. Emotion will be an indicator that you are still kind of hanging there, and it's still you're not still kind of free enough to move. I mean, and forgiveness, yeah, really powerful. Yeah, as a result, able to move, able to let that thing go, and letting go, you're free to change and move on. Yeah. And about regrets, about something which you've done, some mistakes, I don't know. I have a very, very strange approach. It reminds me some kind of military, probably it's kind of Soviet Union, Russian stuff. Because I remember myself, I'm like, my wife was like, do you think sometimes about this? I said, I always said, I don't do regrets. And that was like, then later I was thinking, wow, what approach, I just don't do regrets. I mean, I really don't go there and don't dwell on it and just, it's done, move on. Yeah, it's like a very harsh kind of a little bit approach to, yeah, interesting.
So what process
But
did you do to get there?
I'm not Russian, but I'm much more like you, Alex. So it's done. What can I do? Nothing. I cannot. I don't have, the time machine, so I can go back and change things. The only way it's okay. I learn and move on.
Yeah, in some ways, maybe it's some kind of instinct, because I know if I start thinking about that, start analyzing, I'm gonna be more and more connected to that thing. I mean, and that connection will eventually kind of, hook me, and I will be stuck because of that. But if you just let stuff pass and don't even look at it anymore, not even once, what is done. Just move and. Yeah, so this is more or less kind of so far. I'm not saying it's a good approach or right one, or but at least I noticed that that's how I usually deal with the past.
And
You know?
I think for me, that's one of my most difficult things that I struggle with. I'm getting better, but I have always struggled with allowing the past to kind of influence my present.
To
And
come.
I'm, it's a struggle, but now that I've become aware that I allow this to happen, I'm quicker to cut it off. But that's my desire to, okay, this is the past, this is what's happened. And I mean, I have all the logic, like Irene said, I know I can't go back and change it. I know it's done. I've said and I've coached people, and that's exactly what I've told them, the conclusion. But then when it comes to me, I had that internal, and it was for a while a serial killer because it was happening over and over and over. And that's where some of these writings that I read earlier last year, around the first of the year, I was like, okay, something, I need to make a shift here. Something is not right. So if I can write something down and then put it aside, then go back and read it later, it's like, whoa. So
Yeah, interesting. Well, it's actually quite delicate kind of topic because, for example, if something happened and if you are not dwelling on it, you actually, I believe you are free. But if you dwelled on it for a while, made some conclusions and make some judgments, and then kind of forgot about that, it's actually still holding you and hooking you because
mhm,
I think that's why we need to go back and maybe rethink or look at this thing differently. That's where reframing is needed, or therapy, or because actually there was like you allowed yourself to make some kind of judgment over it, and if it's negative one or some kind of powerful one, it's still inside and still driving your present behavior without even your awareness. So I
mhm.
believe that if you don't do regrets, then do clearly don't do regrets, like really clear, because a little bit of regrets, and then later actually it's influencing you because and then you need to go back and rethink and reframe and revisit and re-explain that experience in a different way. So to be free,
Yeah.
yeah, that's how probably killer, yeah.
Oh, John, I can see you just bubbling
No,
to
I'm watching.
say
No,
something.
I'm watching Irene. I'm trying to see where she's at with this. I'm trying to pick up the energy, because I know she's taking it all in. But I was kind of waiting to see how this is all sitting with you.
Well, fortunately, I lost the attitude to go back and start to, creating these infinite thoughts about even sometimes reframing could be let yourself to stuck in that position and not moving. And it's depending, timing is important, I think. um we In a training I do, we used to let things be as they are, without judgment, without labeling, without description about that. It's about losing really the capacity to have judgment, bias, and prejudice in whatever is happening in our life. And this exercise, in the beginning, it's strange. We cannot be able, because we are trained instead from society, culture, school, to judge at least everything. This um, instead we learn how to discern. The discernment is different, is choosing what is right for us, in having the focus for our benefit and the benefit of all. And when you think about your benefit, the paradoxical result, and you cannot think about hurting other people in certain level of consciousness. And this is more about, even when there is something that is not going as it's supposed to go, you understand that was perfect in that moment and in that circumstance, because you needed to observe the situation and you need to learn from the situation. This is much more philosophical, but it works for me and works for everyone is in the training. So the suffering comes when we start to judge, label, describe, and creating stories or narratives about what's going on and what happened in our life. When we stop to do this, we can see that there is a, you know, there is a purpose even for those things. I wouldn't be able to be the kind of coach I am if I didn't experience what I experienced in my life. It is impossible who we are without our own experiences. And fortunately, we all have some similar and quite different experiences, so we can give different contributions to, you want to call it collective consciousness, or to the universe, or to the world. I love the possibility to have different points of view on something and making discussion like we do, conversation like we do, because always there is something that changes in my mind. There is a shifting. There is the possibility to see things in different way and choose different things in my life.
So it seems to me that right now, if to say it kind of in a simplistic way, if we remove all unnecessary things, probably the killer will come to the point which is kind of nicely described in that story. Do you know the story about the farmer whose horse kind of ran away, and the neighbors came to him, "Wow, it's so bad," and he said, "I don't know." And then the horse came with the two more horses, and the neighbors like, "Wow, it's so good! Look, you have more horses." And the farmer said, "I don't know." I mean, yeah, those kind of stories where, yeah, I mean, like a judgment comes naturally, kind of good, bad, because after that the son of the farmer kind of started to ride those new horses, and he fell and broke his leg, and neighbors come, "Wow, it's so bad," and I don't know, and then they remember that, and then the war started, and the military came, and all young men supposed to go to army, but this one was with a broken leg. And neighbors say, "Yeah, it's so good." It's like, yeah, never-ending stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's interesting that when we remove all those unnecessary pieces and all judgment, then it becomes just flow of things. I don't know if it's kind of nice to talk with that kind of person. I mean, like a Buddha-like, it's like I'm sometimes imagining if I would be talking with Eckhart Tolle, would I enjoy it really? I mean, he's so... I don't know exactly. He's so like, he put me in trance. I'm gonna fall asleep after 2 minutes, probably communicating with him. Yeah, it's very kind of interesting. What kind of personality is gonna be when you lose those pieces? All those, active kind of opinions and passion. It's like, I don't know. Yeah, I'm joking.
Well,
But
you need to try if you want to.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you have to see, Alex.
I don't
Yeah.
know, guys. Do I need to try?
I don't know.
Depending on
Yeah.
you, if you want, it could be an interesting experience.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. But the
I
problem
met
is
a
that
lot
I
of this
don't know
kind.
if I want or not. So yeah, joking. Yeah, but it's interesting where we are kind of landing, because
Yeah.
it yeah reminds me one of the long time ago. I think 15 years ago, I had some kind of physical experience. During one of those fastings, which I at that time I was doing lots of fasting and long ones. And I remember during one long fasting, I remember like almost like some kind of spiritual experience. I was sitting, it was Switzerland, it was cold, but I didn't feel, when you fast and you're losing kind of sensitivity to cold. I was sitting outside, it's already November or whatever. And suddenly I had a physical sensation that it's almost like some kind of revelation kind of came. And if I explain what the revelation was, it's like a very simplistic idea, not idea, but the point is that I felt it, it's like inside something just let go. And if I express the idea, it's very simple. Idea is like this. I realized like a deeply in a physical way that I am pushing and trying to do things, so many things around me my way. And if I stop doing it, all those things will be moving forward much better. And I mean, that's kind of idea almost like, yeah, probably, but I felt it. I felt like something huge energy kind of bulb inside of body, just boom. And that was almost like a huge insight. I was like, wow, that's what I am doing. I am pushing, I'm trying to do this, I'm pushing this my way, I'm trying to do this, and lots of stuff. It's like using energy. And the realization was that it's all against the river. It's not how stream goes. And again, you see, stop doing it. Stop doing that. And that was kind of physical sensation of that. And I wouldn't say I totally changed, but huge part of me kind of relaxed after that. After that fasting, I was just started to do that kind of almost like, I don't know. I mean, whatever. Yeah, interesting. So it has some kind of physical representation in our body, all those
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anytime I have an experience like that, I call it something completely different than I'm sure what you call it. Maybe uh, John might call it. I'm not sure, but I called it. I really do. I see that and hear that as the voice of God.
Mm.
Oh. Mhm.
That's how the way you describe that. That's how I hear the voice of God. When it's just like it's not a voice, but it's just a knowing. And instead of I don't know, is I know.
Nice. It's actually probably the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure people have different, but the way you described it, that's how I hear the voice of God.
Wow. Nice. Well, I'm sure everyone is different. We are all kind of
Yeah,
receiving stations, and we're all unique how we do that.
yeah,
Interesting, really interesting. But definitely, it's a lot about kind of getting rid of or letting go some pieces which we kind of created or assembled or acquired along the way. I mean, by conditioning, by parents, by imitating, or yeah, we are like a sponge. When you are young, you're just taking everything in without any kind of any kind of critique, or just everything in, and then probably takes a lifetime to get rid of it.
yeah.
So Okay, guys, time, I believe, for conclusion. John, yes, you've been
Well,
silent. I'm
Yeah,
sure
you
you
know, I'm
you've been
taking
on
it
it.
all in. I mean, as I said, I think I'm these days I'm kind of absorbing more than I'm putting out there. But
Okay.
I think so. One of the takeaways is clearly in this conversation how we all, in some ways, see these differently, and that's not a bad or a good thing. It just shows
No.
where each one is and what might work more easily for others. Um, um, and I think, you know, I loved what Irene was talking about earlier when because I just read this with Wayne Dyer. He was talking, you know, they talk about my life experiences from the past and how he to be grateful for those, even, you know, and again without labeling them, but simply saying that they've these experiences have come to me in this place and they've informed who I am. And so, you know, and somehow being grateful for, you know, even what we might label as bad things, right? But they've been part of our human experience and also our maybe spiritual experience. But the big takeaway is that we all approach it a little differently. But I think the big message, and we've talked about this before, is how do we allow ourselves to let go? And I love the idea, you know, we use the Michelangelo, and, you know, my art teacher in college and in university always said less is more. Less is
nice,
more,
nice, but
right?
it's a
And there
tricky thing to
seems to
do.
be
Yeah,
this theme, and that kept coming up. I mean, as you were speaking, I kept standing there in front of the easel, and I remember him saying less is more, that there's actually more energy and actually more result from putting less on that paper, you know. And so I think that that was really the largest takeaway of how do we allow ourselves to, you know, set ourselves a little free and let go. And that process can be different for everyone. um, but it seems that's the real message here. If we're
nice.
able to let go, if less is more, then imagine what those possibilities are. Imagine what life can be like, and imagine the healing that can take place if we allow ourselves to let go and yeah, set ourselves a little free.
Very nice. I like less is more. Probably Bruce Lee right now would shake your hand and hand of your art teacher as well. So less
Less
is
is
more.
more.
That's really cool. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, guys, nice pleasure talking with you. So we will continue next week then. Thanks a lot.
Absolutely.
Wonderful. Thank you.